The ESS Pioneer drifted through the void toward a structure that made Earth's greatest cities look like toys. The astral beacon stretched across space for hundreds of kilometers, a spinning wheel of metal and light that housed millions of beings from across the galaxy. Captain Dong Hyun stood on the bridge, watching the station grow larger on the main screen. 15 years. 15 years in deep sleep, crossing the darkness between stars, all for this moment. Captain, we're receiving multiple scanning beams, Commander Hanul said from her station. Her fingers moved across the controls, analyzing the data, at least 40 different sources. They're very interested in us, Dong Hyun nodded. He expected this. Humanity had found the relay gate floating at the edge of the solar system, a piece of ancient technology that connected to others across the galaxy. They didn't fully understand how it worked. They just knew it could take them to the stars. So they took the chance. Open a channel, Dong Hyun ordered. Let's introduce ourselves. The communication system activated. Dong Hyun straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. This is Captain Dong Hyun of the Earth Spaceship Pioneer, representing the United Nations of Earth. We come in peace, seeking contact with galactic civilization. The response came quickly, but not in any language they knew. The ship's computer worked to translate, matching patterns and building understanding from the transmission. After a moment, words appeared on the screen and a voice spoke through the speakers. Earth vessel, you will maintain your current position. Do not approach the astral beacon. A diplomatic team is being assembled. Hanul looked at Dong Hyun. That didn't sound very welcoming. No, Dong Hyun agreed. It didn't. Hours passed. The Pioneer held its position while the station buzzed with activity. Ships of strange designs moved around them, keeping their distance but watching closely. Finally, a small craft approached and docked with the Pioneer. Ambassador Ji-won met the visitors at the airlock with a diplomatic team. The aliens were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They wore elaborate robes and carried devices that translated their speech into English. The lead alien bowed slightly. I am Mediator Ven, assigned to conduct initial contact, the alien said. Your arrival has caused considerable concern. Ji-won smiled warmly. We apologize for any alarm. We simply wish to establish peaceful relations and request membership in the galactic community. Mediator Ven's expression was hard to read, but something in its posture suggested worry. Please follow me to the diplomatic suite. This conversation requires privacy. Inside a meeting room, Mediator Ven activated a display showing Earth. The image was detailed, showing continents and oceans. Then it zoomed out, highlighting Earth's position in the solar system, the asteroid belt, the gas giants. Your world is classified as a Class 9 death world, Mediator Ven explained. The gravity is nearly twice what most species consider normal. Your atmosphere has dangerous levels of oxygen. Your planet experiences extreme temperature variations, violent weather systems, and aggressive biological competition. Ji-won glanced at Dong Hyun, confused. These are just normal conditions for us. Exactly, Mediator Ven said quietly. That is what concerns the Council. You evolved to survive conditions that would kill most galactic species within hours. Your physical capabilities, your tolerance for hardship, your aggressive problem-solving methods. All of these are traits of Death World species. I don't understand, Ji-won said. Why is this a problem? We're here peacefully. Mediator Ven was silent for a moment. Then it brought up new images on the display. They showed destroyed worlds, burning cities, and fleets of warships. These are records from the last 5 Death World species that reached space. All of them claimed peaceful intentions. All of them became threats to galactic stability within a generation. 3 were destroyed in defensive wars. 2 accepted permanent quarantine on their home systems. Dong Hyun felt anger rising in his chest. You're judging us based on other species. We're not them. We came here to join you, not to fight you. Perhaps, Mediator Ven said, but the Council cannot take that risk. You must understand. The peace we have maintained for thousands of years depends on preventing threats before they grow too large. So what are you saying? Ji-won asked, though she already knew the answer. The Council will convene tomorrow, Mediator Ven replied, but I have been authorized to present you with an ultimatum. The ESS Pioneer will return to Earth through the relay gate. Your species will accept monitoring and isolation. You may develop within your own solar system, but you will not expand beyond it. If you accept these terms, humanity will be left in peace. And if we refuse? Dong Hyun asked. Mediator Ven's translation device made a sound like a sigh. Then you will be classified as an active threat. The Confederacy fleet will ensure you do not leave this system. The diplomatic meeting ended shortly after. Back on the Pioneer's Bridge, Dong-hyun stood with his senior officers. Lieutenant Sang-ho was reviewing the scans they'd taken of the station's technology. Hanul was analyzing the military vessels surrounding them. Ji-won looked tired and frustrated. "They didn't even give us a chance," Ji-won said. "They looked at where we come from and decided we're dangerous. Can you blame them?" Hanul asked quietly. "From their perspective, we're strong, adaptable, and potentially aggressive. That's exactly what they fear." Sang-ho looked up from his console. "Captain, I've been studying their technology. It's advanced, yes, but it's also limited. Their ships use energy weapons and shields, but I'm seeing design choices that suggest they've never had to deal with resource scarcity. Everything is built for efficiency and elegance, not survival." "What are you saying?" Dong-hyun asked. "I'm saying their technology evolved differently than ours," Sang-ho explained. "We built things to last, to keep working even when damaged. They built things to work perfectly in controlled conditions. I don't think they've fought a real war in a very long time." Dong-hyun walked to the main viewport and stared at the astral beacon. 15 years. They'd traveled 15 years to be told they weren't welcome, that they should go home and hide. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who watched and waited for news from the stars. He thought about the colony ships that would follow the Pioneer, carrying families hoping for new worlds. "We're not going back," Dong-hyun said firmly. "Not like this. We came here to prove we deserve a place among the stars. Running away proves them right." "Captain," Hanul warned, "we're one ship against their entire fleet. If we refuse, they'll force us." "Maybe," Dong-hyun agreed, "but they'll have to actually force us. We're not going to make it easy." Ji-won stood up. "I'll send a message to the council. We'll refuse their ultimatum formally and request a proper hearing. Maybe if we show we're reasonable, they'll reconsider." "Do it," Dong-hyun ordered. "And Hanul, I want you to plot escape routes and defensive positions. We're staying at least until we've had our say. If they want us gone, they'll have to push us out." "Aye, Captain," Hanul responded, already working on tactical scenarios. Dong-hyun returned to the viewport. The astral beacon glittered in the darkness, beautiful and vast. Somewhere inside that structure, aliens were deciding humanity's fate based on fear and prejudice. They didn't know humans yet. They didn't understand what it meant to survive on a world that tried to kill you every day. They didn't know that humans were experts at overcoming impossible odds. Tomorrow, the council would convene. Tomorrow, humanity's future would be decided. But tonight, Dong-hyun made a promise to himself and his crew. Humanity would not beg. Humanity would not surrender without trying. They had come too far to turn back now. The galaxy was about to learn what Death World species were really capable of. Not violence, not conquest, but something the aliens feared even more. Absolute refusal to give up. The council chamber was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. High Counselor Ven stood at the center, his blue skin marked with patterns that showed his age and rank. He addressed the assembly with a voice that carried authority built over centuries. "The human vessel remains in our space," Ven announced. "They have refused the terms of isolation. They demand to be heard, to be judged as individuals rather than by the history of their kind." A representative from a species with 6 arms spoke up. "Have they shown any aggression?" "Not yet," Ven admitted, "but that is not the question. The question is whether we can risk allowing another Death World species into our civilization. History tells us the answer." Scholar Thane, an elderly being covered in fur, stood slowly. "History also tells us we have never given such a species a real chance. We judge them before meeting them. Perhaps that is our mistake." Ven's eyes narrowed. "You would risk everything we've built on, perhaps? On hope? We have a responsibility to protect trillions of lives." "We also have a responsibility to be just," Thane replied. "Are we so afraid that we cannot even listen to them?" The debate continued for hours. Meanwhile, outside the station, the situation grew more tense. Confederacy warships had arrived, throughout the night forming a loose sphere around the Pioneer. Admiral Krell commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Vigilance. On the Pioneer's bridge, Hanul counted the ships surrounding them. 47 warships now, Captain. Most are destroyers and cruisers. But there are 3 capital ships. We're outgunned by a factor of at least 200 to 1. Dong-hyun studied the tactical display. The enemy ships maintained careful distances from each other, never bunching up. Professional deployment. They'd done this before. What about our message to Earth? Sent through the relay gate 12 hours ago, Sang-ho reported. It should reach Earth in another 6 hours if the gate works the way we think it does. And the colony ships? They launched 3 years after us, so they should be about 12 years behind, Sang-ho said. But if they received our messages about the gate route, they might have adjusted their course. Dong-hyun allowed himself a small smile. The Pioneer wasn't as alone as the Confederacy thought. Humanity had sent more than 1 ship to the stars. They just hadn't arrived yet. A communication came through from the astral beacon. It was Mediator Ven again. Captain Dong-hyun, the Council has reached a decision. You are granted 1 opportunity to address them. You have 1 hour to present your case. Ji-won hurried to the Council chamber with a small team. She had prepared her speech carefully, choosing words that would show humanity's peaceful intentions while not appearing weak. The chamber fell silent as she entered. Honored Council, Ji-won began. I stand before you representing a species you fear. You fear us because we are strong, because we survived conditions that would destroy others, because our history shows violence and struggle. She paused, letting her words sink in. But I ask you this. Why did we develop violence? Not because we enjoyed it. We developed it because our world forced us to fight or die. Why did we develop strength? Because weakness meant death. Why did we develop the ability to endure hardship? Because we had no choice. Ji-won activated a display showing images from Earth. Humans helping each other after natural disasters. Humans building together. Humans exploring, learning, creating. These are also humans. Yes, we can fight, but we can also cooperate. We can build. We can learn. We made peace on our own world, ended our wars, united our people. We did the hard work before we ever left our system. High Counselor Ven listened, but his expression remained hard. Pretty words, Ambassador, but words are easy. How do we know you will not become a threat once you have more ships, more weapons, more power? You don't, Ji-won admitted. Just as we don't know if you will honor your promises to us. Trust must start somewhere. Someone must take the first step. We're asking you to take that step with us. Scholar Thane spoke up. The ambassador makes a valid point. We demand trust from them while offering none in return. Ven shook his head. We offer isolation, which is more than we've given previous Death World species. That is our compromise. That's not compromise, Ji-won said, anger creeping into her voice. That's imprisonment. You're asking us to accept that we'll never explore, never grow beyond one star system, never meet other species. You're asking us to give up our dreams because you're afraid of what we might become. Yes, Ven said simply. That is exactly what we're asking, because the cost of being wrong is too high. The vote was called. The result was not close. 73 worlds voted to enforce the isolation. Only 15 voted to give humanity a chance. The rest abstained. Ji-won returned to the Pioneer with the news. They won't listen, she told Dong-hyun. We have 24 hours to leave or they'll force us. Dong-hyun called a meeting of all senior staff. The crew deserves to vote on this. It's their lives too. The vote was held throughout the ship. Every crew member was given a choice. Leave peacefully or stay and face the consequences. The results came in quickly. Out of 247 crew members, 235 voted to stay. Only 12 wanted to leave. The people have spoken, Dong-hyun announced. We stay. The deadline approached. Admiral Krell sent a final warning. Human vessel, your time is up. Power down your engines and prepare to be escorted back to the relay gate. Dong-hyun responded calmly. Negative, Admiral. We're not leaving. If you want us gone, you'll have to move us yourselves. Krell was surprised. He had expected fear, maybe anger, but not this calm defiance. Captain, you must realize you cannot win a fight against us. I realize many things, Admiral, Dong-hyun replied. I realize you've never fought a species that evolved on a world like ours. I realize your weapons are designed for clean, precise warfare, and I realize that you don't really want to kill us. You just want us to go away quietly. What I want is irrelevant, Krell said. I have my orders. Then carry them out, Dong-hyun challenged. Attack an unarmed diplomatic vessel in front of the entire galaxy. Show everyone what Confederacy justice really means. Krell cut the transmission. On his flagship, he spoke with his tactical officer. Analysis? The human ship is not unarmed, Admiral. They have kinetic weapons, missiles, and what appears to be a railgun system. Primitive, but potentially effective. Krell made his decision. We'll disable them without destroying the ship. Precision strikes on their engines and weapons minimize casualties. The fleet moved into attack formation. On the Pioneer, alarms sounded. They're powering weapons, Hanul reported. Dong-hyun sat in his command chair, appearing calm even though his heart raced. All hands brace for impact. Sang-ho, is the relay gate ready? Yes, Captain, Sang-ho replied. But if we activate it now, it might draw their fire. That's what I'm counting on, Dong-hyun said. Do it. The relay gate, sitting silent since the Pioneer's arrival, suddenly blazed with light. Energy poured through its massive ring structure, creating a tunnel through space that connected to another gate light years away. The Confederacy fleet detected the surge immediately. The gate is active, Krell's sensor officer shouted. Something's coming through. But nothing emerged. Not yet. The gate simply stayed open, humming with power, a clear signal sent across space. On Earth, 12 years away at normal speed, receivers picked up the activation. The message was clear. The Pioneer was in trouble. Dong-hyun broadcast on all channels. People of the galaxy, you're watching humanity make its first stand. We're not leaving. We're not surrendering. We're not going to let fear dictate our future. The gate is open. Help is coming. And when it arrives, we'll show you what humans are really made of. Admiral Krell realized what had happened. The humans had called for reinforcements. But from where? Their home was too far away. Unless. How many ships did humanity send? Krell demanded from his intelligence officer. Records show only one, Admiral. The Pioneer. But Krell wasn't convinced. These Death World species were survivors. They planned ahead. They prepared for the worst. If they sent one ship, they likely sent more. All ships, hold position, Krell ordered. We wait and see what comes through that gate. The standoff had begun. The Pioneer sat at the center of a fleet that could destroy it in seconds. But now the Confederacy had to wonder what might come through the gate if they attacked. The galaxy watched and waited. On the Pioneer's bridge, Dong-hyun allowed himself to breathe. It was a gamble. The colony ships might not come. Earth might not respond. But he had bought time, and time was what humanity needed most. Now we wait, he said quietly. And we hope we're not alone. The first ship came through the gate 36 hours after it opened. It was not a warship. The vessel was huge and ungainly, built for carrying thousands of people across the void. The colony ship New Dawn emerged from the tunnel of light, its engines glowing as it oriented itself. Admiral Krell watched on his displays, calculating threat levels. Single colony vessel. No significant weapons. Maintain positions. But 6 hours later, another ship came through. Then another. By the end of the third day, 12 human vessels had arrived. Each one was a colony ship, carrying families and supplies meant for new worlds. They were slow, heavily armored for meteor protection, and designed to run for decades without major repairs. Dong-hyun felt relief wash over him as each ship appeared. He wasn't alone anymore. He opened communications with the new arrivals. This is Captain Dong-hyun of the Pioneer. Welcome to the Astral Beacon, but I'm afraid the welcome party isn't very friendly. The commander of the New Dawn, Captain Bo-ra, responded immediately. We received your warning messages, Dong-hyun. Took us some time to decode what happened. The other colony ships are right behind us. What's the situation? We're surrounded by a Confederacy fleet, Dong-hyun explained. They want us to leave. They've classified us as threats because we're from a death world. They're afraid of what we might become. Bora laughed, though there was no humor in it. Afraid of us? We're farmers, engineers, teachers. We came to build, not to fight, I know, Donghyun said. But they don't see it that way. Right now we have a standoff. They haven't attacked yet, but that could change. The colony ship commanders held a conference. They compared notes, shared information, and made a collective decision. They would stay with the Pioneer. If humanity was going to make a stand, they would make it together. High Counselor Ven was furious. You said it was one ship, Krell. Now there are 13 human vessels in our space. The intelligence was accurate at the time. Krell replied coolly. Humanity sent multiple ships. They planned for contingencies. Then remove them, Ven ordered. All of them. Show them we mean what we say. Krell hesitated. Counselor, these are colony ships. They're carrying civilians' families. If we attack them, it will be seen as an act of brutality across the galaxy. I don't care how it's seen, Ven snapped. I care about preventing another Death World species from establishing themselves. Disable their ships and send them back. Krell gave the orders. His fleet moved into attack formation, carefully positioning for precision strikes. The plan was simple. Hit the human ship's engines with focused energy beams, leaving them unable to move. Then tow them back through the gate. The first attack wave targeted 3 colony ships simultaneously. Energy weapons fired, brilliant blue beams crossing the void. They struck the colony ship's engine sections with perfect accuracy. On the bridge of the Pioneer, Hanul watched the sensors. They're firing! The New Dawn, Bright Future, and Hope's Journey are under attack. But something unexpected happened. The ships absorbed the hits. Their hulls glowed where the energy struck them, but the ships kept moving. Their engines continued functioning. Sang-Ho studied the data, fascinated. Captain, their weapons aren't doing much damage. Our ships were built to survive radiation storms and micrometeor impacts for years. We have ablative armor, redundant systems, and massive heat sinks. Their precision weapons are designed for ships with sophisticated shields, not raw durability. Admiral Krell saw the same data. His perfectly aimed shots had barely scratched the human vessels. Increase power. Target the same points. The second wave hit harder. This time, the energy beams burned through armor plating on the New Dawn. Warning lights flashed throughout the colony ship. But even damaged, the ship remained operational. Captain Bora sent a message to the fleet. All ships, they're committed now. Donghyun, what's your tactical plan? Donghyun looked at Hanul. She brought up a display showing the Confederacy fleet positions. They're spread out, maintaining perfect spacing. Professional but predictable. They're not expecting us to fight back. Then let's surprise them, Donghyun said. All ships, formation Delta. We're going to show them what Death World tactics look like. The human ships began moving. Instead of scattering or running, they closed formation, creating a tight cluster. The Confederacy fleet watched, confused by the maneuver. It made the humans easier to target. They're grouping together, Krell's tactical officer reported. Admiral, this makes no sense. They're making themselves vulnerable. But then the human ships did something no Confederacy captain expected. They fired. Railguns, ancient weapons that used magnetic force to launch metal slugs at incredible speeds, opened up from every human vessel. The rounds were simple iron projectiles, but they moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The Confederacy shields, designed to deflect or absorb energy weapons, were completely unprepared for solid projectiles with massive kinetic energy. 3 Confederacy destroyers were hit. The slugs punched through their shields like they weren't there, tearing through the ship's hulls. One destroyer lost its entire engine section. Another spun out of control, venting atmosphere. The third went dark, all systems failing. The Confederacy fleet reacted with shock. Admiral Krell stared at his displays, unable to process what just happened. How did they penetrate our shields? His science officer checked the data. Admiral, those were solid projectiles. Our shields are calibrated for energy weapons and small debris. Something that large moving that fast. Our defensive systems couldn't stop them. Donghyun opened a channel to the entire Confederacy fleet. Admiral Krell, we don't want to fight you. But we won't be pushed around either. You attacked us. We defended ourselves. This can stop right now if you're willing to talk. Krell was a professional military officer. He recognized a tactical mistake when he made one. He'd underestimated the humans, assumed their technology was inferior because it was different. That mistake had cost him 3 ships. All vessels cease fire, Krell ordered. Fall back to defensive positions. The Confederacy fleet withdrew, maintaining distance but not leaving. Krell opened a private channel to the Pioneer. Captain Donghyun, you've made your point. But this doesn't change anything. You're still ordered to leave Confederacy space. And we're still refusing, Donghyun replied. So where does that leave us? In a very dangerous situation, Krell said honestly. I'll report what happened here. The Council will decide the next step. But Captain, understand this. I came here with 47 ships. The Confederacy has thousands. If they decide to end this, they will send everything. I understand, Admiral, Donghyun said. But we're not leaving. We came to join the galaxy, and we're not giving up on that dream just because you're afraid of us. The communication ended. Throughout the human fleet, crews celebrated their first victory. But the senior officers knew better. They'd won a small engagement, but the war had just begun. Scholar Thane watched the battle from the astral beacon, recording everything. He sent a message to colleagues across the galaxy. Pay attention to what's happening here. The humans just defeated superior technology with inferior weapons. They did it by thinking differently, by using tactics we've forgotten. His message spread through academic circles, then to news networks. The galaxy began to take notice. Most species sided with the Confederacy, supporting the containment of a dangerous death world species. But some, a small minority, began to question whether fear was the right response. On the Pioneer, Donghyun gathered his officers. We won this round, but they'll be back. Next time with more ships and better tactics. Sang-Ho, I need you to study everything we can learn from those damaged Confederacy ships. We need to understand their technology. Already on it, Captain, Sang-Ho replied. I've been analyzing the sensor data. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's specialized. They've optimized everything for efficiency. That makes it powerful, but also inflexible. Hanul was working on tactical scenarios. Captain, if they come back with capital ships, our railguns might not be enough. Those larger vessels have much thicker armor. Then we'll adapt, Donghyun said. That's what we do best. We take what we have and make it work. The Confederacy has better technology, but we have something they lost a long time ago. What's that? Ji-won asked. Donghyun smiled grimly. The ability to fight dirty. In the Confederacy Council, High Counselor Ven addressed an emergency session. His face was dark with anger. The humans have drawn blood. They've damaged our ships and made us look weak. This cannot stand. I'm requesting authorization to deploy the capital fleet. Scholar Thane stood to speak. Counselor, perhaps this is an opportunity. The humans demonstrated they can defend themselves. Perhaps we should negotiate rather than escalate. Negotiate? Ven said coldly. They attacked our ships. After we attacked them first, Thane pointed out, we fired on civilian vessels carrying families. The humans responded with remarkable restraint. They disabled our ships without destroying them. They gave us a chance to withdraw. That suggests they truly want peace, but Ven wasn't listening. The vote was called. The capital fleet was authorized. The war had entered its next phase, and neither side could back down now. The Confederacy capital ships arrived 1 week later. They were enormous, each one larger than all 13 human vessels combined. The dreadnoughts moved with terrible grace, their weapon systems capable of destroying planets. Admiral Krell commanded from the largest, a ship called the Unbreakable Unity. Donghyun watched them approach on the main display. Sang-Ho analysis. 3 capital ships, 27 cruisers, 41 destroyers, Sang-Ho reported. If they all fire at once, they could overwhelm us in minutes. Then we don't let them all fire at once, Donghyun said. He opened a channel to the other human ships. All captains, listen carefully. We can't win a straight fight, so we won't fight one. We split up, we run. We make them chase us across this entire region of space. Captain Bora understood immediately. Hit-and-run tactics, like guerrilla warfare in space. Exactly, Donghyun confirmed. We're faster and more maneuverable than those capital ships. We use that advantage. We hit their supply lines, their infrastructure, anything that's not a warship. We make this war too expensive for them to continue. The human fleet scattered before the capital ships could engage. Each ship headed in a different direction, jumping to different systems using the relay gates. The Confederacy fleet tried to follow, but they couldn't track all 13 targets at once. Donghyun took the Pioneer to a supply station 3 systems away. The station was massive, processing raw materials for Confederacy shipyards. It was defended but not heavily. Most military forces were focused on hunting the human fleet. Take out the defensive platforms first, Dong Hyun ordered, then target the refinery sections. We're not here to kill people. We're here to damage their ability to make war. The Pioneers' railguns fired. The defensive platforms exploded. Warning alarms sounded throughout the station as thousands of workers evacuated to emergency shelters. The Pioneers' missiles struck key processing facilities, causing massive damage but avoiding the habitat sections. Within 20 minutes, the station was crippled. The Pioneer vanished through another relay gate before Confederacy reinforcements could arrive. Similar attacks happened across multiple systems. The New Dawn hit a weapons depot. The Bright Future attacked a sensor array. The Hope's Journey destroyed a shipyard that was building new destroyers. Admiral Krell found himself fighting an enemy that refused to stand still. Every time he positioned forces to defend one location, the humans hit somewhere else. This is not warfare, he complained to his tactical staff. This is chaos. It's effective chaos, Admiral, his second officer replied. They're causing billions in damage with minimal risk to themselves. Our supply lines are stretched trying to defend everything. Meanwhile, Commander Hanul had turned the Pioneers' strategy room into a war planning center. She tracked every Confederacy ship movement, looking for patterns and weaknesses. Captain, I've noticed something. They're predictable. They follow strict protocols for everything. Their fleet movements, their response times, even their communication patterns. Everything is by the book. And humans threw away the book a long time ago, Dong Hyun said. Keep analyzing. Find me something we can exploit. Lieutenant Sang-ho had been working on another project. He'd managed to salvage wreckage from the destroyed Confederacy ships. Now he was in the engineering bay, surrounded by alien technology. Captain, you need to see this. Dong Hyun found Sang-ho with his team studying a strange device. What am I looking at? Their FTL drive, Sang-ho explained. Or part of it. Captain, I think I can reverse engineer this. If we can jump without using the relay gates, we'd have a massive tactical advantage. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3, Sang-ho estimated. But Captain, there's something else. Their weapons technology. I can adapt it to our systems. We could mount their energy weapons on our ships. Dong Hyun considered this. Do it, both projects. We need every advantage we can get. But the Confederacy was adapting too. High Counselor Ven had authorized extreme measures. The cleansing weapons were brought out of storage. These devices used radiation and biological agents to sterilize entire ships. They were considered war crimes by most galactic civilizations, but Ven argued this was a special situation. The colony ship Resilience was caught while evacuating civilians from a damaged supply depot. Confederacy cruisers surrounded the ship before it could jump away. Captain Tae-young sent desperate messages. We're a civilian vessel. We're not armed. We're just helping people evacuate. Admiral Krell's orders were clear. The cruisers fired cleansing weapons. The radiation swept through the Resilience, killing everyone aboard in minutes. 3,000 humans died, including 800 children. The death of the Resilience changed everything. Dong Hyun received the news while planning an attack on a Confederacy fuel depot. He stood in silence for a long moment, processing the information. Around him, the bridge crew waited. They killed civilians, Hanil said quietly. They used forbidden weapons on unarmed people. Dong Hyun felt anger like he'd never known. But he forced himself to think clearly. Send the footage to every news network in the galaxy. Make sure everyone sees what the Confederacy did. Then get me every captain. We're changing our strategy. Ambassador Ji-won was already working on the political angle. She sent messages to every Confederacy member species, showing the footage of the Resilience's destruction. This is what your council did in your name. They murdered 3,000 civilians, including children, because they were afraid of us. Is this the peace you want to preserve? The response was immediate and divided. Some species supported the Confederacy's action, arguing it was necessary to stop a death world threat, but many were horrified. Protests broke out on dozens of worlds. Several species threatened to withdraw from the Confederacy. Scholar Thane led the opposition, forming a coalition of species who believed the Confederacy had gone too far. This is not defense, he argued in the council chambers. This is genocide. We have become the very thing we claim to oppose. But High Counselor Ven remained firm. We are protecting trillions of lives from a potential threat. The cost is regrettable but necessary. The galaxy fractured. Some species sent ships to support the Confederacy. Others recalled their forces, refusing to participate in what they saw as murder. A few, led by Scholar Thane's people, even offered covert support to humanity, sharing intelligence and supplies. Dong Hyun used this chaos to launch his most daring operation yet. Sang Ho had finished reverse engineering the FTL drive. Now human ships could jump anywhere, not just to relay gates. This opened up entirely new tactics. "We're going to hit them where it hurts most," Dong Hyun announced to his gathered captains. "Their main shipyard at Verdun Prime. It's heavily defended, but if we can destroy it, we set their war production back months." Captain Bo-Ra looked worried. "That's suicide, Dong Hyun. They have half their fleet defending that system. They have half their fleet spread across that system," Dong Hyun corrected. "We use our new jump drives to appear inside their defensive perimeter, hit the shipyard, then jump out before they can respond." The plan was insane. It was also the kind of bold move that might actually work. The captains voted. 9 ships would participate in the raid. 4 would remain behind to continue harassment operations elsewhere. The attack on Verdun Prime began at what humans called dawn, though space had no such thing. The 9 human ships appeared simultaneously at different points around the massive shipyard complex. They jumped directly through the defensive lines, materializing inside the safe zone, where the Confederacy never expected enemies. The shipyard had minimal point defense. It relied on the fleet to keep attackers away. The human ships opened fire with everything they had. Railguns, missiles, and newly installed energy weapons struck construction facilities, dry docks, and supply depots. Dong Hyun watched the destruction on his displays. Secondary targets. Hit the dry docks with the half-built dreadnoughts. The Pioneer's guns fired. A dreadnought that was 70% complete broke apart, its skeleton structure unable to withstand the damage. Explosions rippled through the shipyard as fuel and ammunition supplies detonated. But the Confederacy fleet was reacting now. Capital ships were moving into position, and their powerful weapons began targeting the human vessels. The first shot caught the Bright Future, cutting through its armor and destroying its engine section. The colony ship began spinning out of control. "All ships prepare to jump," Dong Hyun ordered. 3, 2, 1. A massive energy beam struck the Pioneer before it could activate its FTL drive. The ship shuddered violently. Systems failed across multiple decks. The FTL drive went offline. "We're hit," Hanyul shouted. "FTL is down, engines at 40%. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. Dong Hyun made a decision. "All other ships jump now. Get out of here." 8 human ships vanished, escaping the trap. Only the Pioneer remained, crippled and surrounded. Confederacy ships closed in from all sides. In the Pioneer's engine room, Sang Ho worked desperately to repair the FTL drive. Around him, his team fought fires and sealed hull breaches. "I need 10 minutes. On the bridge, Dong Hyun knew they didn't have 10 minutes. A Confederacy cruiser was moving into firing position. Its main weapon was charging for a killing shot. Then something struck Dong Hyun. Pain exploded through his. Commander Hanyul stood in the captain's chair, watching the Confederacy ships close in around them. The Pioneer was damaged, bleeding atmosphere from 3 decks, and its FTL drive was still offline. They had minutes, maybe less. "Sang Ho, status?" Hanyul demanded through the ship's communication system. "Almost there." Sang Ho's voice came back strained and exhausted. "The FTL motivator is cracked. I'm bypassing it with auxiliary power. 30 seconds. Hanyul looked at the tactical display. The Confederacy cruiser was 20 seconds from firing range. They wouldn't make it unless... "All power to forward shields," Hanyul ordered. "Navigation, prepare for emergency acceleration on my mark. We're going to ram that cruiser." Her bridge crew stared at her. "Commander, that will destroy us." "So will staying here," Hanyul replied calmly. "But if we're going down, we're taking them with us. Maybe that will make them think twice about the cost of this war." The helmsman's hands trembled as he entered the commands. The Pioneer's engines burned at maximum power, pushing the damaged ship forward. The Confederacy cruiser detected the move and began evasive maneuvers, but the massive warship couldn't turn fast enough. Then Sang Ho's voice crackled over the speakers. "FTL drive is online. Jump now!" Hanyul didn't hesitate. "Jump!" Reality twisted. The Pioneer vanished from Verdun Prime, just as the Confederacy cruiser fired its main weapon. The beam passed through empty space where the Pioneer had been a moment before. The Pioneer emerged 3 systems away, near a barren moon. Emergency systems activated automatically, sealing hull breaches and stabilizing the ship. In the medical bay, doctors worked on Dong-hyun. The shrapnel had punctured his lung and caused severe internal bleeding. His survival was uncertain. Hanul visited him after the surgery. Dong-hyun was unconscious, connected to machines that breathed for him and monitored his failing body. She sat beside his bed, suddenly feeling the weight of command crushing down on her. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said quietly, "but we made it out. The mission was a success. We destroyed the shipyard and escaped. You'd be proud of the crew." She paused, looking at his pale face. "I've been reviewing your strategy logs. I understand what you were trying to do. Make the war too costly. Force them to negotiate. But Captain, I think we need to change tactics. We're winning battles but losing people. The resilience is gone. The bright future barely made it out. How many more ships do we lose before they finally listen?" Earth had been sending supplies and reinforcements through the relay gates. More colony ships arrived, along with the first true military vessels humanity had built, small frigates and destroyers, designed with the lessons learned from the war. But they were still outnumbered by thousands. Hanul called a conference with all human ship captains. They appeared on screens around the Pioneers' briefing room, faces tired but determined. "We've been fighting this war for 8 months, Hanul began. "We've done incredible damage to the Confederacy. We've also proven we can defend ourselves, but we haven't achieved our goal. We're still not accepted. We're still just a threat to be eliminated." Captain Bora spoke up. "What are you suggesting, Hanul? That we surrender?" "No," Hanul said firmly. "I'm suggesting we change the game entirely. We've shown them we can fight. Now we show them we can be everywhere at once." Sang-ho has been analyzing the ancient relay gates. "We found something interesting." Sang-ho appeared on another screen, looking exhausted but excited. "The relay gate network is far more extensive than the Confederacy knows. There are dormant gates throughout their space, connections they've forgotten or never discovered. During our 15-year journey here, we mapped 47 gates. Many of them lead directly to Confederacy core worlds. The implications hit every captain simultaneously." Captain Jamin from the Hope's Journey was first to speak. "You're saying we could appear at any Confederacy homeworld without warning?" "Not just appear," Hanul said. "We could do what the Confederacy fears most. We could strike at the heart of their civilization, cripple their entire infrastructure, destroy everything they've built. We have the ability to win this war completely." Silence filled the conference room. Then Ambassador Ji-won spoke, her face appearing on the main screen. "But we won't do that," Hanul nodded. "Exactly. We won't do that because we're not the monsters they think we are. Instead, we're going to show them we could do it, and then we're going to offer peace." In the Confederacy Council chambers, High Counselor Ven was facing growing opposition. Scholar Thane's coalition had grown to include 37 species. They were demanding negotiations with humanity and an end to the war crimes being committed in the name of galactic safety. "The humans have destroyed our primary shipyard," Ven said to the council. "They've crippled our supply networks. They've turned public opinion against us. We must respond with overwhelming force." "We've been responding with overwhelming force for 8 months, Scholar Thane replied. "It hasn't worked. Every attack we make, they adapt. Every time we think we have them, they slip away. High Counselor, perhaps it's time to accept that military victory is impossible." Admiral Krell attended the session remotely. He'd been chasing the human fleet across space, never quite catching them. "Scholar Thane is correct," Krell admitted. "The humans are employing asymmetric warfare tactics. They don't need to defeat us in battle. They just need to make victory too expensive. And they're succeeding." Ben was about to respond when alarms began sounding throughout the council station. Security alerts flashed on every screen. The chamber fell into chaos as representatives demanded to know what was happening. A tactical display appeared showing space around the station. 13 human ships had appeared simultaneously. But these ships weren't attacking. They simply sat there, weapons powered down, making no aggressive moves. Then the human ships vanished. New ones appeared at different locations. Throughout Confederacy space, human vessels were materializing near major population centers, military bases, and industrial facilities. They appeared for a few seconds, then jumped away, appearing somewhere else. Hanul's voice broadcast across every Confederacy communication channel. "People of the galaxy, we want you to understand something. You're watching human ships appear throughout your space, At your homeworlds. Near your stations. We're showing you that we could strike anywhere, anytime. Your defenses cannot stop us because we know routes through the gate network that you've forgotten. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But we're not attacking. We're not destroying your homes or killing your people. We're proving a point. We have the capability to end this war in the most devastating way possible, and we're choosing not to do it. Ambassador G1's face appeared on the transmission. We came to the galaxy in peace 8 months ago. You rejected us out of fear, so we fought to prove we deserve respect. We've fought, we've bled, and we've shown you what Deathworld species can do when pushed to the edge. But we're still here, offering the same thing we offered at the start. Peace, cooperation, a chance to build something together. G1's expression hardened. But this is your last chance. We're tired of fighting. We're tired of losing people we love. So you have a choice. Negotiate with us as equals, or we'll use every advantage we have to make this war so costly that your civilization collapses under the weight of it. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Human ships appeared one final time, simultaneously at 47 different locations. Every major Confederacy world saw a human vessel appear in their orbit, hold position for exactly 10 seconds, then vanish. The message was crystal clear. Humanity could be anywhere. High Counselor Venn sat in his chamber, staring at the tactical reports. Admiral Krell's analysis was brutal. They've won, Counselor. Not through destroying us, but by proving we can't destroy them. If we continue this war, they'll bleed us slowly until we have nothing left. And now they've demonstrated they could strike our homeworlds directly. We have no defense against that. Venn felt his long career crumbling. Everything he'd built, every decision he'd made to protect the Confederacy had led to this moment. A single human ship had arrived 8 months ago. Now that ship and its companions had brought the greatest civilization in the galaxy to its knees. What would you do, Admiral? Venn asked quietly. I would negotiate, Krell replied. The humans have proven they're strong enough to be respected and wise enough to show mercy. Those are not qualities we should destroy. Scholar Thane entered the chamber without being invited. The council is voting, Venn. You've lost. It's over. The vote was not close. 64 species voted to begin peace negotiations. Only 9 supported continuing the war. The rest abstained. Venn was removed from his position. Scholar Thane became High Counselor. 1 week later, the Astral Accords were signed aboard the Astral Beacon where it all began. Dong-Hyun had recovered enough to attend, though he was still weak and walked with help from Hanul. Ambassador Ji-won represented humanity officially, but she insisted Dong-Hyun be present. You started this, she told him. You should see it end. The terms were simple. Humanity would be granted provisional membership in the galactic community, with full rights and protections. Humans could colonize any unclaimed systems they chose.